We must talk about blood with Miss Blessing Explain. Hello, my people. Let's talk about blood. By introduction, blood fluid that transports oxygen and nutrients to the cells and carried away carbon dioxide and other waste products. Technically, blood is a transport liquid pumped to the heart, in brackets or an equivalent structures to all parts of the body, after which it is returned to the heart to repeat the process. Simply, we can define blood as a body fluid in humans and other animals that deliver necessary substances such as oxygen and nutrients to the cells and carried away metabolic waste products from the same cells. Blood is a special type of fluid connective tissue that derives from mesoderm. Above all substances in a human body, blood is one of the more familiar ones, as we all heard about injury that involve bleeding. It was not well understood exactly what blood is or what it does. We just know that if we lose enough of it, we die. But we now have an intimate understanding about this fluid, such as a circulatory system whose function is to continuously pump blood around the body. But we will get to this system later. Firstly, let's examine blood itself, what it is made of, and why it is so important for human life. Let's mention that blood is typically considered a fluid connective tissue, and as such, it is the only fluid tissue in the body, full of fibrous proteins. It is comprises of found elements, which are blood cells suspended in a fluid called plasma. If we place blood in a centrifuge, it will separate into its components. The densest section is comprised of erythrocytes or red blood cell, and the last dense section will be the yellowish plasma. They are separated by the bifurcage, a white layer containing platelets, as well as leukocytes, otherwise known as white blood cells. As a whole, blood is responsible for distributing various substances around the body, most notably oxygen, which we can't survive very long without, but it also carries nutrients absorbed from the digestive tract and almost secreted by endocrine organs. Blood also delivers waste products to the organs that will dispose of them, like the carbon dioxide that we exhale. Beyond this, blood serves to regulate pH in various tissues, maintain body temperature, and prevent infection. Let's discuss each component of blood now, beginning with plasma. This is a stinky fluid made mostly of water, but also containing a variety of protein, nutrients, ions, gases, and hormones. The most abundant plasma protein is called albumin, which contributes significantly to plasma osmotic pressure. And this is followed by a variety of globulins, which bound to center molecules for transport. Moving to the formed elements, these are erythrocytes or red blood cells, leukocytes or white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cells and platelets are interesting in that they don't possess all the typical organelles and they don't divide. They are placed by stem cells in the bone marrow. Red blood cells are very numerous in the bloodstream, and they are shaped like flattened dishes with depressed centers. There is no nucleus, not much of anything inside other than lots of hemoglobin. This is the protein that allows for the transport of oxygen throughout the bloodstream, which is picked up in the lungs and then released for tissue cells throughout the body. There are other proteins as well that have structural and protective function, but hemoglobin will be the focus here. This is the structure of hemoglobin. It is made of a protein called globin, consisting of 4 polypeptides, 2 identical alpha chains, and 2 identical beta chains, each of which is bound to a heme groups with ion at the center. The ion in this heme is able to bond to an oxygen molecules in reversible fashion so that it can bound and then release when necessary. So each hemoglobin can bond 4 oxygen molecules, and there are around 250 million hemoglobins per red blood cell. So one red blood cell can transport 1 billion oxygen molecules. Blood cells are produced through a process called hematopoiesis, and this occurs in the red bone marrow, which is a soft network of connective tissue found on certain blood capillaries, which contains hematopoietic stem cells for erythrocytes, specifically called erythropoiesis, and billions of new red blood cells are made every day to maintain a nearly constant number, given that red blood cells function properly for only about 3 months, only to be destroyed by macrophages, which are a phagocytic type of white blood cell. Next, let's look at leukocytes or white blood cells, which, unlike the far more abundant red blood cells, are complete cells with nuclei and organelles. These are part of the immune system. which we will discuss in greater details later. But for now, we will just understand that these help us defend against pathogens and other harmful things. These use the circulatory system to get around the body, but they can also slap out into other connective tissues to do their work. There are two types of white blood cells, granulocytes and agranulocytes, which differ in the presence and absence of granules. The three types of granulocytes are: 1. Are neutrophils, which kill bacteria; eosinophils, which kill parasitic worms; and basophils, which contain histamine that attract other white blood cells to a site of inflammation. Agranulocytes, on the other hand, can be lymphocytes which fight viruses and tumors, and also give rise to plasma cells, which produce antibodies, which we will discuss later. Or they can be monocytes, which become macrophages that can eat up intruders. Leukocytes are produced by leukapheresis, which is stimulated by certain chemical messengers. Lastly, we get to the platelets. These are fragments of large cells called megakaryocytes. These fragments are essential during blood clotting, which happens when blood vessels are damaged, as platelets can block up any holes or tear to seal things off. They flow through the bloodstream in an inactive state, unless needed, drying every 10 days or so, and constantly regenerated. Megakaryocytes form during the repeated mitotic cycles that do not perform cytokinesis. So the result is one huge cell, a multiple load nucleus. This then processes against a sinusoid and its extension bursts to release the platelets. These platelets are important during hemostasis, which is the process by which the body will stop bleeding through vascular systems. Platelets block formation and then coagulation or blood clots. This essentially means that where there is damage to a vessel, smooth muscle will contract, platelets will block the tear, and a protein called fibrin will form a mesh to pitch everything up. Once the vessel has healed, the clot is removed through a process called fibrinolysis, so that there is no blockage in the vessel. So these are the components of blood. We can look at a diagram like this, Want to see how these arise during hematopoiesis? We can also briefly mention the different blood types that humans can exhibit. These are A, B, AB, and O. These have to do with glucoproteins and glucoliquids found in a plasma membranes of red blood cells. A and B refer to two different agglutinogens that can be found in these membranes. So blood group A has one of them, B has the other, AB has both, and O has either. This is important for blood transfusion because if someone's body only recognizes A and gets blood with B, the new blood cell will be recognized by antibodies as foreign and destroy which can be fatal. So someone with a B blood can receive any blood since both A and B will be recognized. Hence, they are universal recipients. And someone with O blood can give blood to anyone since there are no markers to be recognized. Hence, they are universal donors. There are also Rh blood groups, which refers to agglutinogens called Rh factors. And for this, a person is either positive or negative. This is reported along with the ABO blood group by tracking on positive or negative to the end. Give us group like O positive, A negative, and so on. And with that, we are familiar enough with the structure and function of blood.